Hey guys, I'm at the Woodshed Barber, and today we are going to be talking about, wait for it, Oster.
Well, that's fine, but I don't see how that affects... What?
So, kind of going off what I did with the Andis Master, this is going to be similar. I'm doing a review of a clipper whilst also reviewing a company. And it's not to throw shade or anything like that, but I think that a lot of people who like the history of the business enjoy talking about concepts and things like this. So before we get any further, let's just go ahead and talk about the clipper we're going to be talking about, which is the cordless fast feed.
Pop the hood. 2JZ engine, no shit.
Now, for some reason, the old companies, Andis and Oster, both in that thing, they don't include the speed of their clippers in their descriptions. And I'm not going to do the microphone speed check thing. All I do know is that just from the sound of it, and this is what the pivot motor was in the original as well, it is a slower running clipper that has a lot of torque. Now, you may be wondering, what's the point of that? Well, whenever it comes to the way that they designed their blades, it's got a nice deep tooth entryway in the steel blade, and the moving blade is a coarse cutter, so very big teeth, and with it running super slow, that allows a lot of hair to get trapped in that space. So even though it runs slower, it can go through hair very efficiently without as much power or worry with that. And that was the beauty of the original fast feed. Now I will say that's the beauty of this one too. Now they did change the motor some. So the original was a magnetic drived pivot motor, and so because I don't have any more old fast feeds, I've done away with them. I wish I wouldn't have. I wish I would have kept all my old Barber stuff. But man, I had like 4 or 5 toolboxes full. I just couldn't store them anymore. But the old one was a magnetic motor that, because of the magnet and the way that a pivot drive kind of goes together, like right here is what drives the blade, and it has these 2 arms that come out, and because of the magnet, it swings like this right here, and so it pivots in the middle and swings, and that moves the blade. So that's a pivot motor. Very high torque, efficient motor. With the cordless one now, what they have done is they have decided to take the rotary aspect and make that be what makes that pivot swing. So it's kind of like a hybrid motor in a way, but it is a pivot motor. It does work off the pivot. So as far as the way it sounds, I mean, it sounds just like the old fast feed. If anything, I think it sounds better. So sound check. It sounds weird at first. It kind of like, it rams up at first, and then it just kind of settles in. And I have noticed a little bit of sound difference as I adjust the taper arm, but I mean, power, it's got plenty of it. It took off a lot of hair really fast. And so as far as power goes, I'm gonna have to say this is a 10 out of 10. It's a very interesting retrospective on the kind of motor you can have in a cordless clipper.
Look out!
So let's go ahead and talk about it. The blade. It is, to me, there are 2 top-notch blades in the business as far as the heritage of the business. That's the Andis Master blade, and that is also the Oster blade. I guess it's the 91350, I think is what it's called. Some of these companies are terrible at naming things, but it is a great cutting blade. It actually is a lot like the Andis blade, and like the Andis blade, it's also bigger than the wall blades, and so it's a little wider. It's almost like cutting with a OA on a detachable clipper, as far as the space it takes up. Now, and to their credit, I think it's either their 1 or their OA pretty much the same kind of guards work on both of them, as far as the way that, because you know, Oster really was what made detachable blades what it was. And so I would say, as far as the blade goes, I would also say a 10 out of 10. This is a great blade.
You're in dire need of an upgrade. Systemic, top to bottom.
Gosh, I feel like I'm repeating myself in some of these videos, and I am. Design, that's where my love for this clipper stops. It's an awkward handled clipper. Like it's small in places that you want it to be small, but in other places that you think that it would feel better, it's kind of bulky. Like instead of having the thickness of the clipper here where your hand kind of opens up, it has it down here where your hand is gripping. So even though you've got good real estate here, you've got this big old clump of plastic right there. I don't like that. Now the switch, it's in a fine place. It's okay. Nothing wrong with that. But my biggest problem with the design, for one, I mean, this looks like it was designed in 2004, 2005, as far as how tools were looking at the time. This feels way outdated already. Now, I will say the black and silver one does look a whole lot better, but it's still going to feel the same. It's the same shape. And the taper arm. I don't know what this is. I don't know why it feels so off. Every single time I adjust the taper arm, I'm having to move the clipper in my hand to do so. What's the point of that? That's, I mean, whenever I'm cutting, if it's closed, if it's all the way closed and I'm cutting, the starting point is okay. It's a okay starting point. But then, that's a better angle to see that. But then, to close it all the way, you think doing that's it? Nope, it closes a little bit more. So to just get the taper arm and pull it back, you have to slide your hand over the clipper like that to do that. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to cut hair with my hand twisted like that. It's supposed to be like this. It's just a very poorly designed clipper. And also the maroon, come on, man. They act like we've never seen a good classic Oster clipper before. So now this right here is an old one. They didn't always look this kind of brownish maroon, but this is one of my dad's old 76s. That's not the same color at all. And the fast feeds had this color. The old school fast feeds had it. And I don't know, man, like, why does it have to be maroon? Why design wise, it just misses it for me. I guess the best way I can put this is I hate holding and operating this clipper. That's not good. Design, I'm gonna go 3 out of 10. Yeah, 3.
Because the way that my bank account is set up, the thing is, I got a checking in the savings, but all my money is in the savings. I don't think my card is gonna go through.
Now, whenever they first dropped it, they went ridiculous with the cost. It was like $250, $225, something like that. Now you can get it on Amazon for like $160, which to me is still kind of overpriced. For one, it does come with a charging dock, a huge behemoth of a charging dock. I do like the way it charges though. It has a actual charging pole that goes into it. It comes with 4 cutting guards that Oster has always had the worst cutting guards. The worst. So it comes with trash to throw away. And it comes with some big old long tube of blade oil. That's it. For what you're getting, if this clipper was maybe 120, maybe 100, it'd be worth it if you liked operating it. But for me, the cost, it's overpriced. So cost, I'm gonna go 5 out of 10.
They've done studies, 60% of the time it works every time.
So performance-wise, I do love the way it cuts, and this is why stuff like this is such a hard thing for me to talk about, because kind of like the way I felt about the Andis Master, it feels like a missed opportunity. So the whole time I'm holding it, I'm just like, this could have been better. Now that we're talking about it, it's only got 90 minutes of runtime, an hour and a half. There's no reason a clipper company should have an hour and a half of runtime anymore. That is lazy. That's just them being like, we'll put a battery in it. We'll have a charging stand, just put a battery in it. No, you need to have a tool that can operate for more than an hour and a half. At least 2 hours, at least. I'd prefer the bottom of the barrel being 3 hours. But the way it performed, the way it cuts fantastic. I love the sound of it. I mean, it's, with me talking right now and that low hum, it's not bothersome at all. I was actually worried it would be annoying, but once again, I forgot how good the old Fast Feed sounded, and it sounds just like that. So performance-wise, not counting how I feel while I use it, but just the way it cuts. And I guess I do have to put a little bit of how I use it in there. So based off the way it cuts and my negative experience of how I have to operate it, if it was just cutting alone, I would say 9 out of 10. But with my negative feeling of having to move my hand around, which would be like a 5 out of 10, I'm going to go 7. Performance-wise, 7 out of 10. Now, my overall opinion, and real quick, kind of like what we did with the Andis Master video, I'm just going to say, overall, the clipper, I think, is a 6. That's where I would put it at. So now I'm going to put this aside, and let's talk about Oster for a second. So Oster and Wahl were the first two. They both came out with their electric clippers in 1919. And, you know, Andis followed up just 3 years later with, 1922, I believe. And the big three was formed. Within 3 years, you had the entire barber industry change. And so each of them had their niche. And with Andis, I think that their niche was very high-performing blades with crazy durability. Like those steel casings were just top-notch, and still are. And the way that their trimmers have always felt. So for me, that's been Andis's platform was the blades. With Wahl, I think it was the feel in hand and the cutting experience. How good the taper arm felt. How durable it was, but like they had great guards. They had all the accessories were top notch. With Oster's big thing that set them apart from everybody else was the style of clipper. And that goes back to the Progenic Model 10, the Progenic Model 11. It's those and the Model 10 that they came out with a few years ago, which is this one right here, was completely taken from that. Now this right here, not this one, but the Progenic Model 10 came before the 76. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the 76 came out at the bicentennial in 1976. I think that's why they called it that. I could be completely wrong. That's my guess. But once the 76 hit, and I've got two of them right here. Now, the original ones were like this right here. And you can see that whenever they changed them later on, they needed some more venting for the lower casing. So they put those vents on the bottom. Now this right here is actually a Titan with a 76 plate on there because it's a 2-speed. But they changed the game with that because what happened is that you had smoother cutting. I mean, especially in the era of the 50s, 60s, you had these military cuts, these pompadours, all these old school cuts, and they cut hair so well. And not only that, but like if you go to a military base, man, you're getting your haircut with an Oster. Almost guarantee it. Maybe not now. You might see some Andis in there now, but they were the ones who pioneered detachable blade systems. And that's where they gave up. They felt like they did enough. So they come out with the Model 10 right as, I mean, they came out with this, and I love this clipper. Don't get me wrong. I love this clipper. But they came out with it right whenever battery platforms were about to take off. And man, they just, they've always felt disconnected. Like they didn't really know who they were. I mean, you had, and I'm not throwing shade at him. He was a good teacher. He just had his own gimmick. But you had David Gruen, the style renegade, you know, dude cutting hair with a motorcycle vest on, and they focused a little bit more towards the cosmetologists with their Artec, I think is what they called it, the Artec line. They just kept on missing, and we're sitting here, barbers, telling them to the top of our voices, the top of our lungs, like, guys, this sucks. You're missing it. And they just never listened. They never listened. And they have had accidental hits here and there. They accidentally came up with the Octane, and the Octane is a decent clipper. I don't hate it. I don't like it more than the Super or the Pulse ZR. It's to me, it feels odd in the hand. It's very slim in the hand, but it's still a very odd shape. And I hate that high-pitched whir that it has. That whirl that just, don't like that sound at all. This clipper cuts good, but I've given up on Oster. I think that they don't care. So my review on Oster as a brand is a 1 out of 10. They have a good history, but this is a industry that has changed a lot in the past 20 years. Whenever I first came into it, man, like, nobody was trying to be a barber. It felt like it was almost on its way out, but it was starting to have a small resurgence. And then 2004, 2005, it starts to build up more. And by the time 2010 hit, and you've got, or even a little bit before 2010, but you've got all these skin tight pompadours, these stylistic, super short fades with crisp lines that came in, and the only people who could do that was barbers. And so all of a sudden we mattered again, and the companies who thought, oh, well, we've done enough for you, they stopped doing for us. And that's what sucks about this, is that we were forgotten by the people who helped us become what we were. And so there was a big vacuum there. And right now it seems like the companies that are stepping in the vacuum are Babyliss, Stylecraft Gamma. You've got Caliber. That's probably gonna be my next review. You got all these tool companies that come in, and they're like, hey, for one thing, we're not owned by, but we're motivated and designed by barbers. I mean, TPOB, what that dude's done, jeez, man. Like, that dude has shaken stuff up big time, and he's one guy. I'm sure he's got a team, but he's one guy. He's not a big corporation. And so with Oster being sold to Sunbeam, which is like a big subsidiary company type thing, and they make appliances now. They consider what they do appliance making. This is not an appliance. This is supposed to be a tool for barbers. And to put it in the same category as a blender that's not going to work for more than 2 years, I don't know, it's just sad, man. It's like a part of barber history dying. I don't know if it's possible for Oster to be saved. They've got the reputation, and they got people who love their blades and stuff, but you know, I think the Andis is going to be making a big comeback. I think Wall's a different topic. We'll get on Wall on a different one. But I think that there's chances for these other companies to grab their throne again, and to actually at least just modernize and keep up with the rest of the companies. But Oster, dead in the water, man. They're just dead in the water. Well, guys, I appreciate you watching this video. I love barber history. That's something I may talk about more on here. I'm going to have a couple of new categories of videos coming up soon. One of them is going to be where we would classify both of these clippers in. I'm going to come up with the a Hall of Fade instead of the Hall of Fame. So those would definitely be inductees into the Hall of Fade. But I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you. The community we're building here, I'm loving it. It's all about humility and kindness, all right? This is what we're pushing here. There's too many egos in this business to add more to it. So let's just go ahead and say, look, I don't know everything. You don't know everything. That should be the understanding here. And so with that in mind, let's build this. Let's kind of learn from each other. Let's always talk about the fact that, you know, just because you were taught something doesn't mean that you can't learn new things. Just because I've always thought something doesn't mean I can learn new things. I mean, I've worked with so many barbers in the past 20 plus years. And each one of them has taught me something. A guy who had 20 years experience on me taught me stuff. A girl that I apprenticed taught me stuff. A guy that I taught stuff that came from cosmetology into Barber, he taught me stuff. We all learn from each other. So anyway, I'm talking a lot today. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for watching. Please click that like button, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.